Let's jump into the Roto World player news. Yes, the Washington Commanders are 2-0, but we are going to start here with the Ravens win over the Bengals. Another rocky start for Joe Burrow. The stat line.
I think I got to second base with Connor.
Yes, you did.
It's almost the Jay Buffalo, reaching that territory.
One night in Buffalo.
One night in Buffalo, one disaster in East Lansing, whatever you want to call it. Another rocky start for Joe Burrow,
in Stanford.
who is hurt in this game. You know, the calf still bothering him. He finishes 27-41 for 222 yards, 2 touchdowns, interception, but that doesn't really tell the whole story of this game. And we got to hear from Joe Burrow on the Bengals' slow start after the game.
Obviously, you don't want to start 0-2. It's not what we were planning on, not what you want to do at all. But you know, we're going to bounce back. That's what we do. That's all there is to it. When your quarterback misses camp, it's tough to start fast. It's not an ideal situation.
What happened on the calf? It looked like you're kind of working on it.
Yeah, it's tweaked it a little bit again. You know, we'll see where it is tomorrow.
Could you have came back on the plate?
Yeah, I was going to come back out.
Jay, what if I told you that Joe Burrow is now QB 30 in points per game through the first 2 weeks of the season?
What if I told you that he's playing the Los Angeles Rams next week, and the Bengals are only 3.5-point favorites against Puka Nacua and friends? I mean, the big thing here is his injury and the fact that he's tweaked his calf and it looks like he may not play this coming week. We'll see about that. But even when he was out on the field before he tweaked it, the offense just isn't. It's just not there at the moment. I don't really understand it, but 5.4 yards average after target. That's not the Bengals' offense. And now they're 0-2 and in a massive hole, and they've had their 2 losses to the 2 teams in the division most likely to win it. So that really messes them up for tiebreakers. And yeah, I don't know where this is going now, Matthew.
I get that. I will say, I think where it's going is it's going to be easier. Here's our upcoming schedule. They play the Rams, as you mentioned, on Monday Night Football. Puka Nacua, as brilliant as he is, can't play defense.
Yet.
Yeah, that's fair. It's a fair point. Then they're at Tennessee, they're at Arizona, they're home to Seattle. So there's not a defense coming up in the next 4 weeks that scares you. That a normal Joe Burrow with normal Jamar Chase, normal T. Higgins should, be able to put up points here. He doesn't look like the same guy. To your point, 4 of his last 5 regular season games, he's had 225 or fewer passing yards. I get all that. I think that I am willing to bet more on talent and hang tough, as it were. Having said that, I think that at least in the short term, I'm not selling low, so to speak.
No.
You know what I mean? Like, people are like, I'm not selling low. I'm not doing anything silly like that. But if I'm heading into waivers, depending on the rest of your team needs, am I looking at, like, if Jordan Love's out there, if Sam Howell, jokes aside, is out there, some of these guys that might potentially be better than, being on the road, they're home to the Rams, Super Bowl, a rematch from 2 years ago on Monday Night Football, then I might think about it here in the short term until the calf is 100%.
Yep. So last night, the line for that game opened Bengals -6. Now this morning, it's -3.5. So some people don't think that Joe Burrow is going to play. To be fair, what it means is that there is a risk that he doesn't play. That doesn't mean that he's definitely out, because if he's definitely out, then it's going to move closer to pick. So this is like saying like a 50% chance he plays. Yeah, exactly. So it's not a real line at the moment. It'll end up at something else, but it's certainly a bad indicator. Because I mean, he actively tweaked it. It wasn't just a discomfort. He pulled up limp from it. So I don't know. I'm not sure he's going to play.
Yeah, and I think that I mean if he's out, Browning is the
Jake Browning, Washington legend.
Washington legend. There you go. Not Washington D.C., but the state of Washington.
Yes, West Coast.
West Coast Washington. The lesser Washington, as some people.
Some would say that.
Some
Depends.
refer to it. Some like.
Depends who you're talking to.
Anyway, you're still starting. Look, it was nice to see T. Higgins get off the schneid. I'm not worried about Jamar Chase. Ultimately, he'll be fine as well. Mixon had a solid game. I think, though, as you head into waivers tomorrow, and we'll talk more about this tomorrow, and hopefully we'll get more clarity on Joe Burrow's situation, but I do think it's worth, whether Burrow goes or not, he's clearly not 100%, I think it is worth grabbing another quarterback if you have one viable in your league. But, look, the Bengals have been 0-2 before, and they've been just fine. I believe in the team. I believe in Burrow. I'm not panicking just yet, but it's not great. There's no question.
On the other side of this game, of course, the Ravens come out with the win, and the backfield split after J.K. Dobbins tears his Achilles. pretty even between Gus Edwards and Justice Hill. Gus Edwards gets 10 carries for 62 yards, and he gets the touchdown. Justin Hill, who had 2 touchdowns last week, he gets 1 more carry, 11 carries for 41 yards, did not get the touchdown in this one. Barry, I think it seems pretty obvious that this is who the Ravens are going to be without J.K. Dobbins. A pretty even split for these guys.
Yeah, and I think I think they're both flex plays, and they're both touchdown-dependent flex plays. It paid off for Gus Edwards yesterday, right, where he gets into the end zone. Justice Hill didn't. I think the concern for me on Justice Hill is he really wasn't involved in the passing game. Like, that was the pro-Justice Hill argument was like, oh, well, he'll be involved in the passing game. And even in a game in which Odell Beckham Jr. left early, and the Ravens were moving the ball reasonably effectively, he only had 3 receptions, right? I mean, and now, here's the positives of Justice Hill for those that, like, spent a decent amount of fab budget on him or a high waiver pick. He played 54% of the team snaps. He played 50% of the snaps on 3rd and 4th down, and he had 6 to 7 snaps inside the 10. It does seem like they like him in the red zone package. I know that Edwards ultimately converted the touchdown, but, like, Hill got, like, I think 2 attempts before Edwards converted, and maybe going forward they'll use Edwards more because he's always been kind of that north-south converter. But I feel like, just as a general blanket statement, and it was a quiet day for Zay Flowers as well, but 6 different wide receivers against Cincinnati had got work here. 5 of the 6 had 3 or more targets. This feels like Kansas City light in this sense. Kansas City, it's just kind of like, as awesome as that offense is, you're starting Mahomes, you're starting Kelsey, and the rest is sort of like, I'm hoping, right? And I just sort of feel like that's the way with the Ravens, that it's Lamar Jackson and Mark Andrews, and then I would put Zay Flowers in that mix. Like, I think you can continue to start him. It was a quieter game for him in week 2 than it was in week 1, but still, like, you can still see the explosiveness and the ability there. But other than those 3 guys, like, you know, I mean, Nelson Aguilar caught a touchdown here. Like, I was hoping, I had a lot of hopes on Rashad Bateman, who I loved coming out of college, was a first-round pick, has shown flashes in the pros, but, like, it's clear, like, not on a ton mock. Even when OBJ went out, Rashad Bateman couldn't get a sniff.
I think early last week it looked like there might be clarity with Baltimore, and that J.K. Dobbins will be the running back, Zay Flowers will be the number 1 wide receiver, and then Mark Andrews will come back and he'll be the tight end, and those 3 guys will all be viable. And now we're basically back to, like you said, Kansas City light, or even just Baltimore last year, but with just different names in the same slots. And now we've just got different versions of Devin Duvernay and Demarcus Robinson and all these guys, where Zay Flowers, he ended up getting the 62 yards with the 4 receptions, but he only got 5 targets. He had a 48% target share the week before. That obviously declined. And then the running backs, these guys, you're just not going to know who's going to get in the end zone each week. So outside of Jackson and Andrews, I mean, you're hoping for Zay Flowers that he improves as the year goes on and gets more target share, but you're not feeling good about anyone.
And while we got on the air, we have an update on OBJ's injury from Ian Rappaport, who said this has been described as a minor ankle injury. Rap Sheet has said his understanding is that Beckham is managing the issue, and if all goes well, it should not affect his availability going forward. But even with the positive injury news here, Barry, I got to go back to your point that this is a classic quarterback tight end offense, and then the rest is a dart throw.
100%. Beckham will have a good game or 2 at some point in the future, but trying to predict when that will be, barring like just massive injuries across the board to the Ravens, it's hard to, like, again, they, you know, when Nelson Aguilar is out there, I mean, it's just, yeah, it's too much of a, it's good for the Ravens. It's tough for us in the world of fantasy. By the way, I like the phrasing of managing his injury. Like, what is that? What does that
Just
actually
not
mean?
ignoring
What is
it.
it? What is it? Managing. Listen, I want you to steal third on pitch 3. What's he managing? Whatever. Odell Beckham Jr. is receiving treatment from medical professionals. He's not managing anything.
Indeed.
But anyway, whatever. But so we hope Beckham gets better soon. But yes, it's the clarity is that Jackson, Andrews, Zay Flowers to an extent, and if you're desperate in a deeper league, touchdown-dependent flexes at the running backs, and that's it.
Moving over to the Chiefs, who traveled to Jacksonville and come out with the win with the return, of course, Chris Jones and Travis Kelce in this game. And, you know, kind of a letdown, I think, on the offensive side of the ball in this game, especially from the Jacksonville side. I mean, the final is only 17-9, no touchdowns for Trevor Lawrence through the air. Christian Kirk, who we talked about it all week, right? We talked about how, wow, what a return for Calvin Ridley, and how about, you know, Zay Jones. And then Christian Kirk, who had a really quiet game. We talked about how you could attack the slot against Kansas City.
We talked about that. We thought Christian Kirk would have a good game this week.
Yeah, he was going to come back to life.
Yep.
But he ends up with 14 targets, 11 catches for 110 yards. He was the standout for Jacksonville's offense. It only put up 9 points on the day.
I mean, it's ridiculous, right? It's he had a 34% target share in week 2, the second most targets among pass catchers in week 2 through Sunday. This was a disappointing game on both sides of the ball, candidly. I mean, the over-under going into this game, I believe, was 51. It was the highest on the Week 3 slate. Final score, 17-9.
It was 3-0 for a long time in the second quarter.
Yeah, it's safe to say the under hit with room to spare. I don't know. They were bad in the red zone, right? This stat is crazy to me. Trevor Lawrence went 0 for 7 in the red zone against Kansas City. That is the most attempts without a completion inside the red zone since Brett Favre in 2006. He came, by the way, like this close to nailing Ridley in the back of the end zone, like just overthrew it by literally like half an inch, and Ridley tried to get his feet down and wasn't able to. I don't know. I sort of don't have Zay Flowers also. Zay Jones left this game as well. He got a little bit banged up. I don't know. I'm just sort of chalking this one up to whatever. I don't know. You know what I mean? When my rankings come out for week 3, I will still have Calvin Ridley the highest among pass catchers. Depends on Zay Jones' availability. I think Jones and Kirk maybe be a little bit closer. When they play Houston this week, that's a positive. I think they do get back, in a groove here as well. I'm not really worried about Trevor Lawrence as well. Just all feels there's just so much inconsistent quarterback play. It just feels like panicking too much on any of these early quarterbacks is a lot.
I think the key stat out of this one is that Jacksonville went 3 of 14 on 3rd and 4th down, and a lot of those were very close plays. And if you just get 2 extra of those, then you keep the chains moving, everyone gets more yards, it looks a little bit better. It was just all a little bit off on both sides of the ball. I think another takeaway from this is that Travis Etienne is getting kind of a workhorse workload in terms of his percentage of the carries. He's not really getting eaten into. He didn't have a good game, but again, that continued on from week 1. But yeah, I don't think there's too much to read into the Jacksonville side. I think the Kansas City side is probably more interesting, Matthew, with the pass catches.
Just real quickly on your point about Etienne, he played 73% of the snaps, even though he left the game towards the end but it turns out it's just cramps. He should be fine for the game against Houston, where he will be a top 10 play for me. Yeah, I mean, Kansas City was just all over the place. After Travis Kelce, right. Travis Kelce was, after Travis Kelce, I want to say off the top of my head, something like 5 different Chiefs wide receivers got at least 5 targets, something like that. None of them got more than 5. I will say that after Kelce, right?
Yep, and 11 players caught the ball from Patrick Mahomes.
9 had 2+ receptions.
It's completely
it
insane.
was just totally spread around.
Sky Moore, after a bad, week 1, catches the touchdown, has 70 yards. Justin Watson got a couple of deep balls there. He's a top 10 in air yards per target. You see it there on your screen, the receiving leaders, right? So Sky Moore, 4 targets. Here's just targets. Sky Moore with 4, Justin Watson with 5, Noah Gray with 3, Kadarius Toney with 5, Kelce gets the 9, McKinnon with 3, Rashee Rice with 2, CEH with 2, Marquez Valdes-Scantling with 3, and again, it's just sort of okay, so Sky Moore winds up with a touchdown, 70 yards. Justin Watson, 3 for 62. He also had a big play that resulted in a pass interference that moved the chains down as well. I do think Justin Watson's sort of interesting, but they just have too many guys, and I just don't know that you can count, honestly, on any of them other than Travis Kelce. I don't feel if you're desperate, you might as well take a dart throw, and if you're in a DFS, if you're playing in a tournament and a GPP, then sure, by all means, throw a dart throw on an MVS or a Rashee Rice or a Justin Watson or a Sky Moore and hoping they catch a touchdown or something, because they'll all be cheap, but I don't know.
It's not just also that there's so many guys, it's that they're not playing well either. These 2 weeks have been 2 of the 5 worst games of Patrick Mahomes' career in terms of the team's success rate on offense. They just don't look right, and these receivers just aren't playing well, Connor. I mean, what did you see from Sky Moore yesterday? Was that, you think, a significant improvement from week 1?
Not really. I thought one of the catches was kind of a fluky breakdown, and that's part of starting somebody on the Chiefs. I understand that, but there just doesn't seem to be – they're not playing in rhythm as much as we expect. It's good for their offense that they are spreading. They're not as volume heavy with Kelce, and they can still win a game. But it just doesn't feel like the receivers are playing in rhythm with Mahomes right now.
Yeah, this was an ugly game. Even Pacheco. I mean, Pacheco I think wound up with like 70 yards or something like that.
12 carries, but nothing in the pass game.
He was nothing in the pass game, and still, again, CEH and McKinnon. I think you can easily forget those guys as nothing other than insurance to Pacheco. But Pacheco's not getting enough work. They didn't score a lot. I mean, Mahomes bailed you out because he got like 30 yards rushing, and I think ultimately wound up with over 300. So you were fine with the fantasy performance with Mahomes, but I agree with you. They're not playing in rhythm. So, the game was in Jacksonville. I mean, whatever. Playing in Florida in September is hot as hell. And so
first week back for Kelsey off the injury as well. They'll be fine.
They'll be fine.
It's awkward.
They'll be fine. But the takeaway is just like Mahomes, Kelsey, maybe Pacheco, and that's it.
Yep.
Hey, it's Matthew Berry from NBCSports.com and RotoWorld.com, and I want to thank you so much for watching whatever it is you just watched, or if nothing else, being too lazy to click out of the autoplay after this video started, after whatever it is you actually wanted to watch finished. But now that you're here, I'd like to take a moment here to ask you respectfully now, okay? I'm asking you respectfully to subscribe to the NFL on NBC YouTube channel. You'll get the latest RotoWorld fantasy news headlines, all sorts of great shows, including my own Fantasy Football Happy Hour. So go subscribe now. Again, I'm asking respectfully.